Leo Khan drifts into his advanced math class, exhausted and late after a sleepless night filled with pressure and doubt. When suddenly called to solve a complex problem, his unexpected answer doesn't just reveal a correct solution, it captivates the entire room with a unique blend of logic and insight that no one saw coming. Beneath his tired eyes lies a mind quietly wrestling with perfectionism and the weight of expectations, ready to challenge what everyone thinks about brilliance and struggle. This is a story about finding strength in vulnerability and redefining success on one's own terms. The clock on the worn classroom wall seemed to mock Leo Khan. Each tick echoed the relentless pressure that weighed on his chest. He slipped through the door just as the bell rang, the faint click of his footsteps barely audible amid the shuffling, papers, and whispered murmurs. The room smelled of chalk dust and anxiety, two scents that had become familiar companions. Leo's eyes bore the telltale rings of sleepless nights. His backpack felt heavier than usual, not because of books, but because of the invisible burden pressing him down, expectations, doubts, and the silent voice of his father echoing in his mind. Be perfect. No excuses. The classroom buzzed with energy as Ms. Patel stood before the whiteboard, poised and commanding. She had a way of making complex theorems seem like keys to hidden worlds. But today, Leo felt disconnected. His mind swirled with unfinished equations and the ache of exhaustion. Today, Ms. Patel's voice sliced through the haze. We're tackling the Riemann hypothesis, one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in mathematics. The weight of her words settled. Like a fog, the room was alive with anticipation. When she scanned the students, her gaze landed on Leo. "Leo," she called, "would you come to the board and share your thoughts?" The silence was a vacuum. Leo's heartbeat thundered. He rose slowly, legs heavy, and moved to the front. As he traced the problem with his fingers, he began to speak. Not just formulas, but ideas, weaving metaphor and logic into a tapestry that stunned the room into silence. For the first time, the classroom wasn't just watching a student solve a problem. They were witnessing a mind that dared to think differently. The heavy bell announced the start of another school day, echoing through the narrow corridors of Maplewood High. Leo Khan slipped in late through the back door of room 204, his dark eyes bloodshot and his body feeling like it carried 1,000 pounds. The faint scrape of his worn sneakers against the linoleum floor was nearly drowned out by the steady murmur of students settling into their seats. His backpack hung loosely from one shoulder, its worn fabric carrying more than just textbooks. It bore the weight of expectations, fatigue, and silent pressure. A few heads turned his way, whispers chasing after him like shadows. Late again. Looks exhausted, doesn't even care. But Leo didn't look up. He knew all the judgments, all the quiet disappointments. They were just another equation he couldn't solve. At the front, Ms. Anjali Patel stood poised, chalk in hand, her expression a calm, yet commanding. The faint scent of jasmine mixed with chalk dust hung around her, a subtle reminder of her patience and persistence. Her eyes briefly flicked toward the door, catching Leo's entrance. Without a word, she returned her gaze to the whiteboard, where an intricate diagram of the Riemann hypothesis sprawled like a cryptic map. "Today," she began, voice steady and clear, "we delve into one of the most complex and fascinating problems in mathematics. The Riemann hypothesis challenges even the brightest minds, but it's the curiosity to question that brings us closer to understanding." A restless energy hummed in the room. Pages rustled, pencils tapped rhythmically against desks, and students exchanged knowing glances, already preparing themselves for the mental marathon ahead. Then, Ms. Patel scanned the room, her gaze settling on Leo. "Leo, why don't you come up and share your thoughts?" The classroom's chatter vanished as all eyes turned to him. The weight of their collective gaze pinned him in place. His heart thundered, limbs trembling as he rose slowly, each step heavy, like trudging through quicksand. Reaching the board, Leo's fingers brushed the chalk before hesitating. The symbols stared back at him, the daunting complexity threatening to swallow him whole. For a moment, he was paralyzed by doubt, the shadows under his eyes deepening. Then, clearing his throat, he began, "It's not just about the zeros on the complex plane," he said quietly, voice steady despite his weariness. "It's about the patterns hidden in chaos. Like how in life, unpredictable moments still form a kind of order if you look closely enough." A murmur swept through the room, disbelief mingling with curiosity. Leo continued, weaving metaphors of order and disorder, randomness and design, connecting abstract math with the rhythm of human experience. The classroom was silent, breath caught between awe and confusion. Ms. Patel's eyes widened, a spark of recognition igniting within her. This was no mere formulaic answer. This was a glimpse into a mind that saw math not as cold numbers, but as living ideas. After he finished, Leo stepped back, heart pounding. The silence lingered, thick and heavy, until Ms. Patel finally broke. That was remarkable, Leo, thank you." He nodded, barely hearing, retreating to his seat as the room slowly resumed its hum. But something had shifted, not just in the classroom, but inside Leo. Back at his desk, Leo pulled out a crumpled notebook filled with scribbled equations and sketches. He traced a finger over a half-finished proof, the ink smudged from restless nights. Sleep had become a stranger, exhaustion a constant companion. The relentless drive to meet his father's expectations clawed at him every day, whispering, "Never. Enough." Across the aisle, Jenna Williams watched him quietly. Unlike most, she saw beyond the tired eyes and quiet exterior. Jenna, with her easy smile and open heart, had been trying to reach Leo for months. After class, she caught up to him in the hallway. "Hey," she said gently, stepping beside him. "That was different. I've never heard math explained like that." Leo shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "It's just words." "No," Jenna said firmly. "It was like you were telling a story. Maybe you're tired, but your mind's still racing." He managed a faint smile. "Maybe. Look," she continued, "if you ever want to talk or just take a break, I'm around." Leo paused, a flicker of something unfamiliar stirring inside him. Connection. Maybe. Before he could respond, the shrill bell summoned them to their next class. Jenna smiled again and disappeared into the crowd, leaving Leo alone with his thoughts. That evening, in the quiet of his room, Leo stared at the ceiling, numbers swirling in his mind like an unsolvable puzzle. His father's voice echoed sharply in his memory, "You have to be perfect. No mistakes, no excuses." The pressure suffocated him. His phone buzzed, a message from Ms. Patel. "Leo, great insight today. Think about the math competition. It could be your chance." Leo hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. Could he handle more, or would it break him? The night stretched on, silent but heavy, as Leo wrestled with a decision that might change everything. The days after Leo's unexpected insight in class unfolded like a fractal of mounting pressure. The math competition Ms. Patel had urged him to join loomed ahead, a distant but ever-growing peak on the horizon of his exhaustion. Each morning, Leo woke to a grinding fatigue that wrapped around his limbs like chains. His eyes burned with relentless dryness, a dull ache pulsing beneath the surface. The nights blurred into an endless river of restless calculation, broken only by fleeting moments of sleep that offered little rest. His father's voice, sharp as ever, echoed through the cramped apartment they shared. "You don't have time for distractions, Leo. This competition is your chance to prove you're not just another average kid." Leo nodded silently, biting back the swelling frustration. Prove, prove, prove. The word churned in his stomach, like a storm. Yet no matter how much he pushed, his mind occasionally betrayed him. Complex theorems slipped like water through tired fingers. Concentration fractured under the weight of exhaustion and fear. The evening after another grueling day, Leo sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by textbooks and notebooks, the pale yellow glow of the desk lamp casting shadows that danced like specters on the peeling wallpaper. His mother's old photograph rested nearby, her smile warm, her eyes full of hope, a ghost of comfort in a world that felt increasingly cold. The apartment was quiet, save for the ticking clock and the low hum of the refrigerator. Leo's father paced in the living room, frustration simmering beneath his breath. "You're burning out," his father snapped suddenly, voice tight with concern and disappointment. "How will you succeed if you can't keep up?" Leo's fingers clenched around his pen. "I'm doing everything I can." "Then do better." The words landed like a blow. Leo turned away, heart pounding. The pressure was crushing. Days later, Ms. Patel approached Leo after class, her expression softer than usual. "Leo," she said gently, "I'm worried about you. You're brilliant, but this exhaustion, it's unsustainable." Leo shrugged, unwilling to admit the turmoil beneath his calm exterior. "Have you considered talking to someone? Our school counselor, Mr. Harris, is great at helping students manage stress." Leo's eyes flickered, uncertainty clouding them. "I'm not weak," he muttered. "Seeking help isn't weakness," Ms. Patel said firmly. "It's strength, and sometimes it's the first step toward real success." After much hesitation, Leo found himself in Mr. Harris's office, a small room filled with bookshelves and warm light. The counselor sat across from him, an open notebook in hand, his voice calm and inviting. "Tell me what's on your mind, Leo." At first, words stuck in his throat, but slowly he spoke of sleepless nights, expectations, fear of failure. Mr. Harris listened without judgment, nodding thoughtfully. "Leo, your mind is powerful, but even the strongest minds need rest. Your pursuit of perfection is admirable, but it's also a burden. We need to find balance." Leo swallowed hard. "I'm scared that if I stop, even for a moment, I'll lose everything. Sometimes, holding on too tightly makes us lose what we cherish most. You don't have to do this alone." Armed with new perspectives and coping strategies, Leo began to navigate the delicate dance between ambition and self-care. His friendship with Jenna deepened. She became his anchor, a steady presence amid chaos. She reminded him to breathe, to laugh, to live outside equations. They studied together in the library, Jenna sketching vibrant designs, while Leo worked through proofs, their worlds colliding and blending. "Math doesn't have to be lonely," Jenna said one afternoon, nudging him playfully. Leo smiled, a rare and genuine expression. The night before the competition, Leo lay awake, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding not just with nerves, but with a strange mixture of hope and fear. He thought of Ms. Patel's words, of Mr. Harris's advice, and Jenna's unwavering support. "I can't fail," he whispered to the darkness. But this time the words carried a different weight, not of dread, but of determination, tempered with acceptance. Competition day arrived crisp and clear. The auditorium buzzed with energy and tension. Students from across the district gathered, each radiating their own mix of confidence and anxiety. Leo's palms sweated as he waited his turn, the stack of problems before him both a challenge and a gateway. When his name was called, he rose, steadying his breath. The problem before him was unlike any he had seen, abstract, layered with complexity and subtlety. But instead of panic, a calm settled over him. He recalled his journey, the sleepless nights, the doubt, the moments of clarity. He approached the board and began. His solution was not just a demonstration of skill, but a narrative, a bridge between logic and intuition, structure and creativity. The judges leaned forward, eyes wide. The auditorium fell silent as Leo's chalk traced his path, not perfect, but profound. When he finished, the room erupted. But for Leo, the true victory was internal. He had faced his ordeal, and in doing so, had discovered a new equation, one of balance, courage, and self-belief. The auditorium was still buzzing with the remnants of applause when Leo Khan stepped off the stage. The sound swirled around him like a distant storm, a sharp contrast to the stillness inside his chest. For weeks, his world had been a tempest, of sleepless nights, doubt, and relentless pressure, but now a fragile calm was settling. Jenna's bright face appeared beside him, her smile warm and unwavering. "Leo," she said softly, "you were amazing. Not just the answer, but everything. I'm so proud of you." Leo managed a small smile, fatigue etched deep into his features. "Thanks, Jenna. Couldn't have done it without you." Ms. Patel approached, her eyes glistening with pride. "You've grown so much. Today, you showed us what it truly means to understand, not just memorize. Your insight touched something beyond math. It touched us all." Leo's thoughts drifted briefly to Mr. Harris's office, to the conversations that had reshaped how he viewed himself. He realized this was more than a competition. It was the culmination of a journey. Later that evening, the quiet of Leo's home felt heavier than usual. The walls, once filled with the noise of his mother's laughter and the clatter of everyday life, now echoed the silence between Leo and his father. His father sat in the living room, hands clasped, eyes fixed on the flickering television, but not really watching. The tension in the air was thick, the kind that had been growing for months like an unseen storm cloud. Leo entered quietly, dropping his bag by the door. "I saw the competition results," his father finally said, voice low but steady. "You did well." Leo nodded, unsure how to bridge the gap that had widened between them. "I've been hard on you," his father continued, voice trembling slightly. "More than I realized. I thought pushing you was the only way, but maybe I didn't see the cost." Leo's throat tightened. "I just wanted you to see me, not just the grades or the awards." His father looked up, eyes glistening. "I'm sorry, son. I see you now, and I'm proud of who you are." For the first time in a long time, a genuine connection sparked between them, delicate, fragile, but real. The following weeks brought subtle but profound changes. Leo learned to listen to his body, to honor the need for rest and balance. He found joy in simple moments, a laugh with Jenna, a quiet evening with his father, a walk beneath the stars. His friendship with Jenna blossomed into something more profound, a partnership built on understanding and support. They studied side by side, shared dreams, and reminded each other of their worth beyond expectations. At school, Ms. Patel championed a new philosophy, one that valued creativity and emotional well-being as much as academic rigor. She invited Mr. Harris to speak to teachers and students, weaving mental health awareness into the fabric of the school culture. One afternoon, back in the familiar classroom where his journey had begun, Ms. Patel stood before her students and posed a question: who can solve this problem? All eyes shifted to Leo, now poised and calm, the fatigue replaced by a quiet confidence. He rose, chalk in hand, and approached the board. "This time," he said with a smile, "I'll start with the answer. But remember, the journey is where the true discovery lies." The room filled with applause, not just for the solution chalked onto the board, but for the transformation of a boy who had rewritten the equation of his own life. As Leo looked around at the faces of his classmates, friends, and mentors, he understood that success was no longer measured by flawless answers or perfect scores. It was measured by courage, the courage to be vulnerable, to seek help, to embrace imperfection. The silent equation that had once imprisoned him had become the equation that set him free.